Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. Thanks to the awesome team over at Show Z. In today's video, we're going to be checking out the newly released Metal Club MuscleBear, or as we all know him as the KO Flame Toys Transformers Tarn. Now for those of you looking to add this guy to your collection, he is currently available and in stock right now over at Show Z, and for that of course I shall pack a link down in the description box below. And Show Z also have got their annual 11/11 sale up and coming, and there are so many different discounts, so many different coupons, discounts on a whole variety of different figures across the site. So for that of course, once again, I will pack more information down in the description box below, so be sure to check out some of those links. Now actually taking a look here at this KO Flame Toys Tarn, to be completely honest, I never picked up the official Flame Toys Tarn, simply because personally I found it to be way overpriced, especially when in comparison to some of the other premium collectible companies that are in fact producing very similar items to this, such as 3-0. In my personal opinion, 3-0 create figures that are just as good if not better than this at a much cheaper price point. So for me, this was always way overpriced, but considering this actual KO, it is roughly the same price as what you would expect from a 3-0 DLX, and considering how astronomical those aftermarket prices are now for the official version, I had to check this guy out, and I've got to be honest and say that for a KO, he is in fact awesome. Now I sadly actually don't know anything about this particular character other than Flame Toys did base this off of his IDW comic book appearance, and judging by some of the images that I was in fact able to find online, they did a stellar job in actually capturing his appearance. Now as we bring this guy in here for a closer look, you can see that in regards to the face sculpt, that just looks absolutely fantastic. Now once again, there will be some subtle differences when in comparison to the official version, just simply down to the fact that this is indeed a KO, but honestly you probably wouldn't notice if you had never actually experienced the official product. I think they've done a fantastic job. The plastic all feels great, the paint looks awesome, and the actual sculpt work is nowhere near as soft as some of the previous KOs that I've reviewed over on the channel. You can see we've got some really awful battle damage actually applied there to the face, looking really menacing. You can pick out there the eyes, some really nice paintwork going on for this section. Overall it's a killer looking sculpt. You can also see some nice hydraulics there connecting the neck to the head, and as we just spin our attention to the torso, we do in fact surprisingly actually get the Decepticon insignia slap bang there in the center, despite this being a non-official product. And you can see as we turn our attention to the side, once again incredibly reflective paint, of which I think looks fantastic. These really awesome purple bursts scattered throughout the torso, and this guy does in fact actually harness an LED function, which will indeed actually bring some of these sections to life later on. You can see here for the shoulders we've got these incredibly thick robust treads. These look great, really nice paint as well as sculpt work going on for these. And as we just spin our attention around here to the back, once again the paintwork truly is fantastic. There are no blemishes on this guy, at least I found, and I think the plastic also looks really impressive, as so does that sculpt work. Now as we once again spin back round to the front, you can see in regards to the sculpt work of the forearms, I think this has all come out really nicely. In particular would be these fingers. The sculpt work on these looks fantastic, especially considering that they are individually articulated, which I do have a slight problem with, but once again we'll touch base more with that when we go through articulation. I think these forearm pads also look really well done. Now bearing in mind I have in fact actually attached some of the accessories to this guy, so we'll strip him down in just a second so you can see these in more detail. But as we just spin our attention here to the skirt once more, you can see really nice reflective tint going on there for the paint, some of those awesome transparent purple bursts. And then as we just turn our attention down to the lower section of the figure, I think overall the design is very well done. I also love that metallic purple that we've got going on there. And then finally you can see we've got this very deep dark blue going on for the tip of the toes. And then as we just spin our attention around here once more to the back, you can see really nice attention to detail, and I do in fact actually like these almost rockets that we've got attached here onto the sides. Now in regards to Tarn's articulation, it's very impressive. So for the head we do in fact get a ball joint. This can look up, I'd say roughly to that far, as well as can look down. It can tilt side to side as well as rotate left to right. Now the neck was also rotating, but it appears to have in fact actually become stuck, so I'm unable to actually rotate this around, and considering there is a wire that connects onto the head, I don't feel confident in actually popping this off and forcing this neck brace. So that is definitely something to be wary of. But in regards to these arms, if you do in fact actually take this section, you can hinge these pieces inwards just to allow for some additional clearance when manipulating these shoulder joints, so these can hinge forwards and backwards. We do in fact actually get a butterfly joint there, which is fantastic, so you can see how that can rock side to side. These sections are also on flaps just to help some of those more dynamic poses. They can of course also hinge here out to the sides. We do get a rotation at the bicep as well as a double joint here at the elbow, and some of the joints are also reinforced by die cast, so not only does that add a greater sense of weight to this guy, but also once again reassures you when actually manipulating some of these slimmer joints. Now as we turn our attention here to the wrist, this can rotate left to right as well as in fact actually hinge up and down, which is really awesome. And the fingers are completely individually articulated at, I believe, 3 points. Now sadly, at least here on my copy, the actual pinky of this hand has a tendency to pop off all the time. Now judging by some of the reviews I found on the official version, that was also an issue that had, so it is a shame that it does appear to have in fact actually carried over here for the KO. It's not a massive issue, and as mentioned before, it is merely just this pinky. I haven't had an issue with any of the other fingers, but that is definitely something to be cautious of. And then as we turn our attention here to the torso, honestly, I think this has got one of the best mechanisms that I've ever seen on a premium collectible. So as we actually crunch this section forwards, you can see how this Decepticon insignia does in fact actually compress within the torso, and we get a really solid crunch going forward. So that is fantastic. We can also, of course, crunch this all the way back. We can get some tilt side to side, which is really cool. The backpack does also have a tendency to pop off if you do knock it. We also do get a rotation left to right as we turn our attention here to the actual skirt piece. This here is on a spring, so we'll in fact move out of the way to accommodate that ab crunch, and the same can also be said here for this back piece. So this too is also on a spring for when you do in fact actually arc this section back. Now here for the legs, if we just hinge this section out the way, you can get these kicking forwards that far, which is great, as well as back to, I would say, about that far. So once again, great range of motion. We also do get a hinge joint out to the side, which surprisingly can in fact withstand its own weight, which is really cool. And you can once again see some of those reinforced die cast joints. We do get a rotation here at the thigh, a double joint here at the knee, which can bend to a terrific degree, albeit incredibly stiff. Actually getting this guy out of the package for the first time, I did actually fear I was going to break it, but it can indeed actually bend all the way back, and that also exposes some nice detailing as well as some pistons. And then as we just turn our attention here finally to the foot, this can go forwards, backwards, as well as rock side to side incredibly stiffly. And then we also do in fact get a toe pivot. Now there's probably some other areas of which I'm missing out, but honestly this guy is cake loads with pretty much all of the main joints that you would expect this figure to have. Now in regards to the actual backpack, it simply does just attach here via this almost T-cut. So we do just align this up like so, and you can have it stored like this on his back, or you can in fact actually take this entire section, hinge this forwards, and have these sections here acting almost like cannons. Now personally, I actually think that's a really cool look for this guy, and is more than likely how I will in fact actually display him on the shelf. But there are also a few additional accessories that this guy comes packaged with, which ultimately allow you to alter how the back actually configures. So if we do indeed actually compress this down, we can pull these sections here up. They are indeed extendable, so if you wanted to, you could in fact actually leave them looking like this, or you could completely remove them. So just repeat the same process here for this side, and that's where we can now bring in these almost speaker pieces. Now the paint and sculpt work on these I also think looks really impressive. Definitely matches what we've seen throughout the figure, and these do simply just attach here into those holsters, and of course repeat the same process for this side. And once again, that's a very cool look for this figure in my opinion. Really awesome display options going on. We also do get included 2 alternative battle masks. So these are indeed sculpted to resemble the Decepticon insignia, one of which has got some nice silver battle damage applied, whereas this one here is the more clean look. Personally, considering the face is scarred up, I do actually prefer to keep this on the figure's face, and just to demonstrate how that looks, it simply does just fit into this cutout that we've got going on here for the head. I will be honest though and say it does take quite a bit to actually pull it out, so definitely be careful of some of these pointy pieces. But you can see that there is the Decepticon mask, and I think that looks really awesome. Of course, we do get included 2 massive fusion cannons, which can indeed actually attach onto this forearm guard, and these look fantastic. Honestly, the sculpt and paintwork across the board for these is really well done. If I just remove one to show you some of its features. Now, not only can you attach it to the forearm, but you can also pull some of these joints down and have Tarn actually hold it via this handle, and then actually get him holding this section to make it look as if though he's firing this out on the battlefield, which is really cool. And the same does also apply here for this one. And I also believe there is some way to in fact actually combine the two. As if we just spin our attention here to the back and pop that cap off, I do believe that this section here is in fact designed to groove in there. And if we just remove that, you can see there that creates this awesome massive battle cannon. Honestly, that looks absolutely fantastic and will no doubt demolish any Autobot that comes in its way. And once again, we do also get another handle here for this section for you to in fact actually give this guy a really good grip when on display. So really cool display options with this. And then finally here for these forearm pieces, they are very easy to detach, but they simply do just hold on via this spring-loaded mechanism on the underside. So you can see this does compress when you stick this tab into it, and we can see here we've got one clean forearm when in comparison to how the actual forearm guard looks, but this too can also be removed. So overall, in terms of accessories as well as overall silhouette, plastic and die cast and paint, I think this guy for the most part looks really impressive. Honestly, once again for a KO, I'm thoroughly impressed. The only downsides that I really have found with this guy would be the actual pinky falling off, and this section here is slightly looser than maybe I would have liked. But honestly, that's just a minor critique for what is otherwise a pretty solid figure. Now, it doesn't end there. He does also have a few different light up features. So as we just turn our attention here down to the legs and detach these almost missile pods, they are held in very securely. And if we just flick this switch here, you can see that this entire section does indeed light up this really awesome transparent purple. Now, these do attach onto the thighs once more, and the same also does apply here to this side. So if we just flick that on, you can see we've got those missile pods illuminated here on the side of the legs, which I think looks really cool. Even here for the back, you can see these missile pods are indeed illuminated. And if we lift this entire section up, you can see here that we do indeed get this button, which when pushed will cause the eyes to in fact illuminate, as well as these two chest lights. So once again, really, really awesome. And this is a feature of which is carried over from the original version. And honestly, I'm really glad they decided to do that, as I really do think it sets this guy apart from some of the other figures that I currently own in the collection. And it really brings this character to life. Personally, I think LED features, especially when they're done correctly, really can make or break a release. And in regards to Tarn, I definitely do think they make him, as he looks really, really awesome. Turning here for some comparisons, of course, we've got the KO Flame Toys Tarn on the left and the MP36 Megatron on the right. So you can see that he's roughly the same size as Megatron, especially if you were to count to the top of these almost speaker sections, but head to head, he does fall slightly short. So maybe won't scale that nicely with these MP figures, but honestly, I don't think it's too off. Maybe if you had this guy in the front and then Megatron situated in the back, I think it could kind of work. And personally, I don't really actually have a problem in displaying these guys with one another. The only real issue that I have is that in regards to aesthetic, they are incredibly different. This guy definitely looks as if though he stepped maybe from the live action movies, whereas this is no doubt a figure based on the original G1 cartoon series. And here for one final comparison, we've got the KO Flame Toys Tarn compared next to the 3-0 DLX Optimus Prime. And once again, much like I mentioned at the beginning of this review, the original version of Tarn was in fact almost double the price of the 3-0 DLX Optimus. And honestly, I don't really see that price hike actually being justified. So to be quite frank, I do actually find this KO version to be a lot more reasonably priced. I think that it is definitely more up there in terms of price point when compared here to this 3-0 DLX Optimus at around 180, when in comparison to the almost 400 that it originally went here for in the UK. So if you maybe missed out on the original version due to price, then I definitely think this KO is a great alternative for you. And to be quite honest, once again, I really do think he fits in with this almost movie aesthetic, maybe being a little too small for Optimus Prime, but definitely you could have this guy displayed with some of your movie masterpiece figures, and I actually don't think he'd look too out of place. So some final thoughts here for this Metal Club MuscleBear, also known as a KO Flame Toys Transformers Tarn. Overall, in regards to KOs, I think this is a really, really well done figure. Honestly, the quality is very, very good. I think the paintwork is fantastic. The articulation is really good. The joints, for the most part, are very, very good, especially where some of those die-cast areas are concerned. And really, the only thing letting this down are some very slight tolerances. Most noticeably would be one of those pauldrons, which sticks up from behind his back, and one of the pinkies. Honestly, other than that, I haven't actually found any tolerance issues with this guy at all. Everything holds incredibly well. He's able to pull off pretty much any pose that I want to get him into. I think he looks fantastic with all of his accessories. I do love the inclusion of the alternate battle mask, so of course you can have the battle damage version or the clean version, and just as a whole, I think the design is awesome. I also really love the LED feature of the head, the torso, as well as those missile pods of which attach onto the side of the legs. And overall, if you missed out on the original Tarn due to price or maybe due to availability, then I definitely think you'll be more than sufficed with this guy, especially considering that he is essentially half the price of the official version. And honestly, I don't think there is enough different here for you guys to in fact actually pick up the official version if you don't in fact already have it in your collection. I think this is a perfect substitute. So with all that being said, if you like what you see, you're a fan of Tarn, and you are a fan of this actual figure, then I would definitely recommend to check out the link down in the description box below where Shozy currently have him available to order. I'd also love to know down in the comment section below on what you think of both the figure as well as the review. Do you guys rate this as highly as I do? And in regards to KOs, is this guy one of the better ones like myself that you guys have seen out there? As always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.